Wasn't ready to make a sequel until we had a special story worthy of a sequel, and until technology evolved so we could delve deeper into the experience of a fighter pilot.
It's a really different and interesting version of Maverick in this film, and I think it's surprisingly poignant and tender.
We're all different in our 20s than we are in our 50s. You know, that's a big part of what the story of the film is telling, is how you know, everybody has to grow up and get older and make tough decisions.
So we had to train our actors for 3 months to handle the G-forces, to get G-force tolerance.
Pretty extraordinary because it's a P-51, it's a vintage plane. I had never been in anything like it. You know, like the top of the cockpit is just skimming the top of your head. I think it was originally just a plane, there was not supposed to be a passenger seat.
The biggest challenges were, I mean, just trying not to throw up, and if you were gonna throw up, make sure you cut the camera first so that the whole crew doesn't get to watch it when you get back, because...
I don't know, it was just like to then see it happen right in front of you and you're like, oh, this is how magic is made. It's sweat equity, it's attention to detail, it's all these different things that create it.
Remakes, sequels, and reboots. These have been Hollywood staples for decades now. This week, Top Gun Maverick joins the likes of Ghostbusters, Jurassic World, and Star Wars, where producers attempt to convert nostalgia into a successful franchise, thereby starting a new chain of blockbusters. Hi, I'm Johan Castell, and I will take you for a crazy behind-the-scenes banter of Top Gun Maverick. So fasten your seatbelt and get ready to meet the new recruits of the film.
30-plus years of service.
After 36 years, the jets are flying again. Top Gun returns to the big screen, with Maverick as their captain. In 1986, it was Tony Scott's action drama that swooped into theaters and created a cult classic.
That's right. I am dangerous.
Inspiring a generation to become pilots. Cut to 2022, filmmaker Joseph Kosinski carries on the legacy with Top Gun Maverick. The time, name, and year may have changed, but Tom Cruise continues to stay relevant. A hotshot naval aviator in the original, Cruise has now returned to train some exciting new recruits.
Good morning, aviators. This is your captain speaking. Today's exercise is dogfighting. 2 versus 1? He's got to be kidding.
Greg Tarzan Davies, Jay Ellis, and Danny Ramirez play Coyote, Payback, and Fanboy in the long-awaited sequel. We spoke to the young guns.
I wanted to know, when you guys were auditioning for these roles, what were the requirements and scripts given to you? Did you have to get into fighter airplanes for these roles?
Yeah, there's...
We met at an audition.
Yeah, he was sitting right in front of me in the audition as we saw somebody like pacing back and forth, like getting all amped into it. But no, we didn't... the requirement was to sign a paper that said you're not afraid of flying. Yeah. And I was, so I lied, so that doesn't count as a requirement if someone's able to lie.
I was not afraid, so I signed it with no problem.
I literally was like, this job is too big for me to be like, oh, I can't do it because I'm afraid.
But we didn't get scripts until after we auditioned. We all auditioned with Joe, right? Well, we auditioned with Joe. We all auditioned with Joe Kosinski and Denise Chayman. Shout out Denise, who casted this movie. And then after that, our tapes went to Tom, which was absolutely insane to get the phone call that like Tom Cruise is gonna watch your audition tape. I think all of us were like, okay, cool, like that's the win. Tom Cruise is gonna know who we are. That's all that matters. And then after that, we got the scripts, read the scripts, and then got into our flight training.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how was the training procedure? We have heard it was quite intense.
That was madness, but it was also good. It helped us prepare. I think if Tom didn't set up this flight training for us, then we wouldn't have been able to do what we did in the F-18s, like the cool shots that we got. I mean, it would have just been a vomit mess up there.
It was still for some people.
It still was.
It was for some people.
When we see the early parts of the film, Tom Cruise comes into the bar and normally we see he's quite dominant, but here we see him as a much more humble man and he eventually gets carried out of the bar. Do you guys think that that will go down as one of the iconic moments from the film?
Oh man, you know it's interesting.
The whole story with that.
Yeah, we didn't. Glenn and I did not want to touch Tom Cruise and throw him out the bar. We were absolutely terrified to throw him out the bar. I remember like the stunt guy walked over to us and was like, "Hey, just when you throw him, just make sure you just kind of you lift him and you let him take it." And we were like, "Okay." So we did it. We do a take. We pick him up. Glenn and I look at each other. We pick him up. We carry him out the bar. Tarzan grabs his legs. We throw him out the bar. Joe yells, "Cut!" Comes in, gives some notes. Tom walks over to Glenn and I, and he's like, "Hey, throw me out." And we're like, "Okay." Tarzan looks at us like, So we do it, same thing. We do it again. Glenn and I look at each other. We pick him up. Tarzan grabs his feet. We throw him out the door. Joe yells, "Cut!" Comes in, gives some notes. Tom walks up to us again. He's like, "I need you to throw me out."
That is probably something that you will never get used to, but how was it to work with Tom Cruise? Was it like a dream come true, or how was the experience overall?
I think to me it was a dream come true to work with someone that's one of the best in their field at acting, one of the best across the board at storytelling. I'm blown away how he hasn't directed 15 movies by now, but like he's just one of the most skilled storytellers that has ever lived. So like to work with someone that pays so much attention to detail, but also that we're able to take his work ethic and realize why the films he's in work the way they do. A lot of that stems from not just like there's great people that surround him, but he also pushes everyone around him to a higher level. Yeah. So I think that's what made and knowing that, like seeing him from watching Magnolia to A Few Good Men, like all of just who he is, and I don't know. It was just like to then see it happen right in front of you, and you're like, oh, this is how magic is made. It's sweat equity. It's attention to detail. Yeah. It's all these different things that create it. So,
being gracious.
Yeah.
That was the coolest part. Growing up watching him in movies, do all this kick-ass stuff, and then finally getting able to do that alongside him. I mean, that was mind-blowing. Like, whoa.
When we see you in Top Gun, you are not only playing a love interest of Maverick, to the audience and to the screen, you are also an Oscar awardee yourself. Can you tell us what it was like to play Penny Benjamin?
It was great fun. I was really excited to be part of the movie. I liked her character, the way she was written. I thought she was very independent, strong, also has a really playful and happy spirit, which I really appreciated.
I thought it was excellent in the beginning of the film. It seems like the Penny and Maverick story is similar to Kelly and Maverick from the first movie, except that there's history between the two characters. Can you elaborate on the relation between the two?
I think it's actually quite different. I think, this is 30 some odd years later. Maverick is at a very different time in his life. And as you mentioned, they have this long history. Penny Benjamin is mentioned in the original Top Gun movie. They had clearly had some kind of a fling even before the original Top Gun when they were both quite young. So they've been in and out of each other's lives for many years. So I think that the relationship is different because it's not a new love affair. It's sort of something that they keep coming back to, and they know each other very well. So they have a much different and deeper kind of intimacy, I think.
Tom Cruise often plays roles that are arrogant and dominating, and in this movie we see a humbler side of Maverick, a more developed character. Can you tell us more about your role in developing Maverick in the movie?
I think that she serves as a because of that history and the fact that she does know him so well, she's able to speak to him as a friend and as a confidant when he's kind of hits a point where he's in conflict and confused about which way to go. And I agree that it's a really different and interesting version of Maverick in this film, and I think it's surprisingly poignant and tender, his portrayal. And I think that he, it reminds us what a great actor Tom really is.
And of course, Top Gun was a flying movie where all the actors go flying every day. How was your experience?
My experience was I fly in. I wasn't originally supposed to fly in the movie. Tom broke the idea to me when we were actually sitting in the plane. We were supposed to just be sitting on the runway, and he started talking about aerobatic flying sequences, and then I realized he was planning for us to do some aerobatic flying sequences, which is a surprise. I didn't go through that extensive and grueling training that all the actors who played the pilots went through, so I just kind of like got in the plane. But it was pretty extraordinary because it's a P-51. It's a vintage plane. I'd never been in anything like it. You know, like the top of the cockpit is just skimming the top of your head. I think it was originally just a plane. There was not supposed to be a passenger seat, but Tom had a little seat put in behind, so my knees were like right up against his back. He was the pilot. He starts the engine, flames come out. It was all like very foreign territory for me, but it was really great.
When we compare Goose with you, there's a strong resemblance in your looks. What have you done to enforce the similarity?
Well, I think it was really important for everybody, and myself included, that when you're first introduced to Rooster, that aesthetically you know right off the bat that that's got to be Goose's kid, man. You know, the Hawaiian shirt and the hair and the mustache and everything. So yeah, I think that's important to for that opening moment to really know who that guy is.
Do you think that that's something that you'll carry over from after the film as well? Like, will you wear a lot more Hawaiian shirts as well?
I mean, I'm kind of wearing one right now. I love a good Hawaiian shirt. I think there's a Hawaiian shirt for almost every occasion.
When we look at the temperament of Rooster, you play the son of Goose, but it seems like the temper is like that of Maverick. Can you comment on the personality of the character you're playing?
Yeah, I mean really, I think the circumstances that Rooster in obviously is completely different than, you know, the Goose character. I think he's got a lot to prove, and also in this one he's a Rooster. You know, Goose was a wingman. He was the back seat for Maverick, and in this one Rooster's as they refer to it, as a single seat pilot. So he's more. He's closer to Maverick in that way, as far as the pilot goes.
So the demands of shooting in a fighter aircraft must have been incredibly demanding. What were the biggest challenges?
The biggest challenges were, just trying not to throw up, and if you were going to throw up, make sure you cut the camera first so that the whole crew doesn't get to watch it when you get back, because you would do the flying, and then you would watch your footage in front of all the actual fighter pilots, you know, a lot of the crew and the cast and everything. So that was something you had to be mindful of.
So when it comes to being in an aircraft, did you feel like you had to do any acting for all the reactions that we see in the movie, or are they natural because of the extreme G-force that you were put through? I mean, the G-force is something, and that was something that Tom had said. He's like, you know, you can't act G-force. That's something that he absolutely wanted to make sure was real. But there were moments where you 100%, the whole time you're really having to act and to remember what this kind of narrative is that you're playing. But for sure, there were a couple of moments where I completely stopped acting and was very scared. With a film of this scale, there must have been many intense meetings where drills are followed and all the protocols are followed down to a T. What did you do to lighten up the mood on the set? Yeah, I would. I try and keep it pretty loose on set when I can. There were obviously very serious meetings that were going on with this, because what we were doing was, they're like pretty risky. You know, the stakes were really high. But I would actually carry around a Bluetooth speaker, and I would play songs from the Top Gun soundtrack. Mostly like when Tom was around, just to try and, just to try and mess with him a little bit. Hello there, is this Jerry Bruckheimer I'm with?
It is, Johan.
Can you speak of the challenges of reintroducing a cult classic to a new audience? How can you maintain the legacy and originality of the first film?
By hiring talented people to surround Tom. Tom is so talented, and we had terrific writers. We have a great director. Tom wanted to make sure that the audience experienced what he experiences inside a jet. So we had to train our actors for 3 months to handle the G-forces, to get G-force tolerance. We started them in a prop plane, then we put them in an aerobatic prop, then we put them in a jet so they could feel even heavier Gs. So when they got in the F-18, They were more experienced handling than G tolerances.
For how many hours a day would the actors be flying?
Usually, if they did 2 sorties, it would be 4 hours. But he'd have a brief in the morning, they'd brief it. When they came back down, they had a debriefing, and then they had usually something to eat, and then sometimes they went back up. But Tom would do 3 of them.
The conditions must have put a lot of pressure on the equipment as well. Did the cameras perform well under the high G-forces of flying and in hot temperatures?
Well, it took us 15 months to figure it all out. We put 6 cameras in the cockpit, and we had to go through all the Navy lawyers to make sure there was no liability. The cameras would stay in there and they wouldn't float around. So we got through it all, but it took a long time to get it done.
For a blockbuster action film of this scale to come together, there are a lot of moving parts, big machinery, aircraft carriers, and dangerous environments. Can you explain the challenges of making a film like this?
Well, the exciting part is the Navy was terrific. They really were. They surrounded us with their best technicians, their best aviators. The ground crews were great. The people on the carrier were fantastic. We had a wonderful experience working with the Navy. They're so professional. The reason the movie came out as good as it did is their technical expertise is what helped make this film so I guess, technically savvy.
Before landing in theaters on May 27th, the movie was premiered at the prestigious Cannes Film Festival. It marked another high point in Tom Cruise's already illustrious career. At the Top Gun Maverick premiere, he received a grand tribute from the French Air Force aerobatic team that flew over the red carpet. He was also awarded an honorary Palme d'Or. And finally, he got a dazzling send-off with fireworks that celebrated his presence at Cannes after almost 3 decades. After its screening, Top Gun Maverick got a rapturous 5 minutes standing ovation. The London premiere was equally glamorous, with British royals, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, gracing the event.
That must be a quite powerful feeling, growing up watching Top Gun, and now you are in the sequel.
It is a great honor to be asked to be a part of this. I knew that from the beginning that that not only Tom, but Jerry Bruckheimer and Joe Kosinski, Chris McQuarrie, all the people involved with making this weren't going to go down that road unless they knew they did it the right way. And I'm very, very pleased with the result.
Maverick has matured a lot from the first Top Gun, and a big part of your role is in lecturing and disciplining Maverick. Can you speak of what it was like to be the mature one?
Yeah, it was. It was an exciting role. It was an exciting job to be given to kind of go toe to toe with an actor of Tom's caliber, playing a character that he's obviously so familiar with. Maverick is different now than he was in the first film. Also, as we all are, we're all different in our 20s than we are in our 50s. That's a big part of what the story of the film is telling, is how everybody has to grow up and get older and make tough decisions, and all of those things land on us differently at a certain age than they did when we were younger.
Your role here is larger than just as an instructor, and what you say and the speeches you deliver reflect a lot about the military. Can you elaborate on that feeling of responsibility on your shoulder, where you are not just a character but also an icon who will inspire future Americans to join the military?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the sense of responsibility is huge in most military men and women, servicemen. The sacrifice and duty are very important words to people in that arena. And my character is no exception. He understands that he's responsible for the lives of these young men and women, and also responsible to the taxpayers who bought all of this fancy equipment that flies around at Mach 10. So it's all all of those decisions are weighed heavily. And he doesn't take any of them lightly, and including bringing Maverick into a position of responsibility as well.
For the people who are wondering if the sequel to the original Top Gun has the same originality, or if it is a good sequel, would you say that the sequel delivers?
Oh, I think it delivers and then some. I think it's surprising how, I think most people that have seen the film are surprised at how moved they are when they see it. You know, for a blockbuster kind of, you know, summertime popcorn kind of movie, it's got an emotional component to it that I think is very real, and that's testament to not only Tom's incredible ability as an actor, but also how close he is to this material.
The sequel is surely aiming for the skies. The publicity blitzkrieg for Top Gun Maverick has been phenomenal. But will the movie do justice to the original? Will it be worth the 36-year wait? There's only one way to find out.